We're talking to House Deputy Speaker, Iloilo 1st District Representative Congresswoman Jannette Garin. Good afternoon, Congresswoman.
Good afternoon.
Congresswoman.
Good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon po.
Good afternoon, Congresswoman, Secretary Garin.
Good afternoon. Hi, Sec. Diyan pala
Long
si
time
Sec.
no see.
Ma'am, we're pulling you in because of that big brouhaha over whether or not this was a certification as urgent of the President of the 4 bills that he mentioned.
That is Ed's word, by the way, the brouhaha.
But it turns out nga na hindi pala siya certification, only asking Congress to prioritize them as urgent. So the ball is in your court. Of course, among many other questions, my question is, bakit hindi pa sinertify ng Malacanang as urgent? Pwede namang gawin kasi it's been done several times before na Maharlika Fund, 2024 GAA, these were certified as urgent and therefore thereby skipping the 3-day rule in between readings ng Kongreso.
Then your fact, kasi let's put it this way. What's the difference between certifying a bill as urgent vis-a-vis a LEDAC priority? If you certify it urgent, it has to bypass the 3-day rule.
Opo.
Yung from second reading to third reading. But the LEDAC priority is almost always prioritized by both houses. And in this case, time-bound kasi, when you certify it as urgent, time-bound siya. So, let's say example, if we're talking about the 2028 elections, pag medyo tumagal ang reform of the party list system, then in the middle of the game, the President can always certify the reforms of the party list system as a bill of an urgent matter.
Yes, ma'am. So,
Sa Congresswoman, sa tingin nyo merong political will sa House? Dahil puro dynasty, maraming dynasty po dyan eh. Sa tingin nyo, maipaprioritize talaga siya. Unahin natin yung dynasty bill siguro muna.
Okay, unahin natin yung anti-dynasty bill. Sinimulan ito ni Speaker Bogie. At kung titingnan natin, aminado niya na siya mismo apektado. Pero ginawa niya, siya yung nag-file. And in this case, andun yung categories, diba, as it was being explained. The way I see it, lahat naman ng ating public officials, well, hindi lahat, no, pero most of our public officials would usually accede to what the people wants, as long as it is reasonable. So in this case, maski apektado ang isang tao because it's the calling of the current times, marami dyan ang sasang-ayon. Sa personal ko lang na pananaw, kasi kahapon pa lang, kinukuha na yung sentiments ng mga kongresista. And in fact, the speaker was talking to some of our colleagues. Isa ako dun sa kinausap niya, marami pang iba, na tinatanong niya, ini-explain nga niya na being in public office is not just being there. It's also an opportunity to leave a legacy. And in this case, there are reforms that are badly needed.
yes,
So sorry, I'm not sure you answered Ami's question, Congresswoman. So is there political will? I mean,
Definitely, yes.
I get that House Speaker D introduced it and put it on the table, but I mean, so many times in the past, somebody has put it on the table to be discussed, but it just never gets passed. So are we gonna get there this time?
Siguro, Congresswoman, daglag na lang. Parang fearless forecast mo sa pagkakaunawa mo dito sa lahat ng bagay, no, sa House, sa bill na ito. Ito ba ay maaaprubahan soon? Halimbawa, within the next 2 to 3 months?
I don't think so. Maybe in the first, maybe 3 to 4 months. No? Kasi unang-una, meron iba kasi na nag-claim more ng public consultation. So yan ay talagang tinitimbang. And I also think we need to, kasi ito ngayon, pa-December na. So technically, the Congress will be on break. We resume, I think, on the last week of January. So if we talk about when it can be passed, maybe that would be somewhere around April or May. I just need to check the calendar of the House again.
Okay, but it seems like this time the leadership is determined to pass it.
Yes. Yun yung sagot doon sa political will question. It will happen soon.
pero ma'am,
I believe so.
Ma'am, pero you're saying there's a clamor for public consultation. Is the clamor coming from the public or is the clamor coming from
The House.
the politicians? Kasi I would think the pinaka-affected directly ng any anti-political dynasty bill would be the politicians. Of course, the public would benefit from it, pero yung negatively affected would be the political families. So I would suppose na the clamor may not necessarily be coming from the public for consultations.
Well, kahapon kasi, nung binuksan nga ito, marami ting hindi nakabasa sa version filed by Speaker Boji D. So, andun yung parang iniisip ng iba, paano yan, lalo na sa barangay level. But then when it was explained, so, meron lang pockets. And I believe it's better for the leadership to put this out in the open at the proper time. There are pockets of areas where they're thinking na baka mahirap. Then when it was explained na isang cluster yung barangay, isang cluster yung municipality, ibang cluster yung province. Doon nakikita na talagang may matatamaan, pero mapupusion yung impact kasi hindi naman siya talagang, it's all about the clustering mechanism. And in this case, we were referring to, I think, six clusters.
Congresswoman, another fearless
Yung
forecast.
sense ninyo, ano kaya yung magiging coverage nun? Realistically, considering the situation sa House, sa
Yan,
Senate,
in relation sa tanong ni...
anong extent ang magiging coverage? Up
In-
to what
in
degree?
in relation sa tanong ni Ami,
ng
Congresswoman,
ties.
anong version yung papasa? No? Fearless forecast. Paano may nag-propose na fourth degree of consanguinity?
Yung version kasi na nakita ko kahapon was up to the fourth level of consanguinity. Pero andun yung cluster na President, Vice President, and Senate is one cluster. The members of Congress and the party list representatives is another cluster. Province is another cluster, the city is another cluster, municipality is another cluster, and barangay is another cluster. At ang napag-usapan nga kahapon, kunyari, ito si Mayor, merong pamangkin na barangay kapitan, it will not follow. But that barangay kapitan cannot run as the ABC president to be an ex-officio member of the council. Ito yung mga clarificatory matters that were being discussed. And in this version, I believe we will be able to get majority support from members of the House.
Ma'am, so you mean by that clustering, ibig sabihin po, if you don't belong to the same cluster, hindi ka covered ng kandidatura ng kamag-anak po in a different cluster?
Kunyari, may isang senador, tapos yung, let's say,
May kamag-anak
pamangkin niya,
tatakbo ng barangay.
congressman, so, pwede siya.
How does that...
But like, within Congress, hindi pwede yung mag-asawa. Hindi pwede yung congressman ka, tapos yung kapatid mo, o anak mo, o pamangkin mo ay party list representative.
So the only limitation actually would be, as far as this version is concerned, the only limitation would be within the same level of constituencies.
Well, not really, because you would have overlapping constituencies there. But then it's basically within the same level of, within the same cluster.
Okay.
Example, you are in one city.
Cluster.
Let's say you are in Manila. That's the city of, the relationship in the version that was being reviewed yesterday by members of Congress, it's within the same cluster. Kunyari, ang presidente, vice president, and senators are not related within the fourth level of consanguinity. Ganon din sa mga kongresista at sa ating party list members. The same applies na kung gobernador yung isang
Yes, ma'am.
tao, hindi pwedeng pamangkin o asawa niya o kapatid niya ang vice governor.
Ma'am,
At hindi pwede yung board member na
Pero
kamag-anak niya.
with that rule po kasi, you will basically have the same system as we have now,
That's
more or
only-
less.
it's
Like
only-
you would have a president,
Konting limit lang.
President
I don't
Duterte,
think so.
and
Ang
you
dami
have
nating mag-asawa or magkapatid na mayor and vice mayor.
No, but-
Meron din mga situation na andun si governor or si vice governor, kamag-anak nila yung board members. Marami rin mga magkakamag-anak na sa within Congress, magkapatid, mag-asawa, pamangkin. And then the party list system is actually one avenue of bringing relatives into Congress. At ito nga yung, this is the first step, okay? It might not be the perfect anti-dynasty bill, but it's a good start.
So,
But
okay.
that means that
Congresswoman,
what's gonna end up
illustrate
happening?
ko lang para medyo maintindihan natin. Kung yung presidente, pwede pa rin siyang magkaroon ng kamag-anak sa Congress.
Sa
Wag lang yung
Congress,
national,
Senado,
no? So,
Mayor,
President, Congress,
Barangay.
Governor, Mayor,
Yes.
Barangay. Yan, pwede yan.
Yes.
So vertical pwede, horizontal hindi.
Oo, yun.
Horizontal ang hindi pwede.
Yes.
Halimbawa, hindi na pwede na magkapatid sa Senado.
Oo. Saka yung mga
Yes.
deputy,
Hindi na pwede.
hindi pwede.
Halimbawa, isang probinsya
Yes.
sa Bicol, lahat ng congressman magkakapatid. So hindi na pwede yon.
Hindi na pwede. Magpinsang buo
So,
rin,
tingin
hindi
nyo yung
pwede.
ganyan, that's a realistic compromise. Kung sakasakali lang naman.
Yes, the way we see it, kasi nga kahapon, sinisimula na yung numbers eh. Andun yung, we can feel na we have the numbers with that kind of version.
Isn't that just going to encourage people to exploit the loopholes, which is, okay, hindi tayo, hanap lang tayo ng mga ibang clusters for each of us and then run in those clusters so that we are covered by this law. By this version, President Marcos, hindi siya affected at all. He's the president. His son is in Congress. His cousin is in Congress. Hindi sila affected. And his nephew is the vice governor and the governor. Sorry, hindi pala vice. Governor yung nephew niya, vice governor is also a relative. So he's not going to get impacted by any of this. Right?
Okay.
So I mean,
I'm not
there's
really
a very big loophole
the
here.
direct relatives of the president, but we are looking at a law that will be passed probably next year and that will be applicable in the 2028 elections. So kung titingnan mo, iba na ang magiging presidente niyan, iba na ang tatakbo ng presidente niyan. So if somebody is running for president, dapat hindi niya rin kamag-anak yung mga tumatakbong senador. Ito namang ibang mga congressman, hindi pwede yung asawa or anak ay nasa party list system. Or minsan kasi, lumalakad na rin, no? Yung parang one district at a time, pero nabubuo na. So it's, again, what I'm saying is that it's not a perfect anti-dynasty bill as what the others would demand, but it's a good start. Kasi andun din yung iba, yung kanila kasing mga objection is, how do you define a dynasty? At dun nga nagkakaiba-iba yung nagiging masalimuot, and then we can, we can become locked in a proposed measure that will never be passed.
Congresswoman, what happened to the version that Congressman Erice filed, the one that caps it at second degree of consanguinity?
Well, I have not really looked into his proposed measure. I've heard the second degree level of consanguinity, but I don't know if it involves clustering. Narinig ko yan kahapon na baka pwedeng wag ng fourth, dapat second level na. Pero mas kasi may clustering na eh. Meron ka ng national, may congress ka na, may probinsya, meron ka ng local. And yung isa kasi dito maa-address, we have seen a lot of circumstances wherein the governor or the mayor, yung ex-officio na SK, ADC president or PCL president ay kamag-anak din. So yung isang medyo mabubuwag to bring more players, to bring more public servants in our society na hindi magkakamag-anak.
You keep saying it's a good compromise, so I'm guessing you're getting a lot of pushback on this from House members.
Yes.
Nabanggit mo, Congresswoman, yung party list kanina. Isa sa pinanggagalingan itong scandal sa anti-corruption ay itong mga party list representatives na marami ay contractors din. Kasama dun sa sa nilagay na priority bill ay yung party list sa law review, di ba? Yung pagbabago. Ano naman yung fearless forecast mo dyan, Congresswoman? Dahil may relasyon yan dito sa anti-dynasty, yung party list. Lalo na sa context na karamihan dito sa mga nakakasuhan o na i-implicate ay galing sa party list mismo.
Well, unang-una kasi when the party list system became members, naging kasamahan, members of the House of Representatives, hindi siya ganun kamasalimuot. But when it expanded to many members, pasensya na, let's call an apple, naging magastos yung kampanya ng ating mga party list representatives. And when that happened, marami nang pumasok na may business interest. Within the House, napakahirap kasi isang bloke sila, like you have 63 or 64 members that can actually pressure a speaker or any position for that matter. Kaya kung natingnan natin, kung nagsimula yung party list block, andun na membership sa CA, deputy speakership, all of this position because they're one block. Now, the reforms will entail areas where there should be no conflict of interest. Kasi sabihin na natin, noong nakarang administrasyon, naririnig na natin yun, yung mga nag-aahente or those who would profit by selling government contracts. Unfortunately, the party list system has become an opening for people na dati nag-aalok sa labas, ngayon nasa loob na. At yan nga ang nakikita nating problema. So I agree that this is a matter that should be dealt with at the earliest possible time. Yung exact version, everybody is waiting for the version of Congressman Shell Jokno because he mentioned na meron siyang ipapakita.
Yes.
I understand po what you're
Congresswoman, by
saying
way
na...
of reforms, sa tingin niyo open yung mga ang House na ibalik yung sense ng Constitution in the party list? Limited na limited yun eh. Yung representation,
Yeah, yung 2%.
to represent the marginalized sectors only. Sa tingin niyo may pag-asa pang mabalik yun doon?
I believe so. Siyempre may resistance yun, no? Doon sa ibang... may resistance yun doon sa ibang may interest. But with the recent claimers of the general public, magkakaisa naman. Kasi minsan, alam mo yun, yung iba nagsasabi, nagkaroon ng oportunidad, di pinasok na rin nila. So, alam natin mali yun. But it has become a, let's say, naging, pasensya for the term, sabi nga ng iba, parang road opening, no, yung party list system for those who vested interest in the government to come and serve the government and be an insider. And this is something that should really be reformed.
Ma'am, let me just drill down dun sa, sa version na pinag-usapan natin about the Anti-Dynasty Bill. When you say clustering, for example, sa local level, do you mean that hindi pwedeng tumakbo yung magkamag-anak to the fourth degree
Within their own clusters.
sa isang probinsya lamang? For example, governor and vice governor. I asked it kasi, for example, in the last elections, you had one family, mga datu, mag-asawa at anak, running as governor for 3 provinces. And then you also had the Ampatuan sa 44 of them running for various positions from Sangguniang up to mayor and vice mayor within the same province or sometimes among 3 provinces. So where is the limitation? Where do you draw the line na hindi pwedeng tumawid at tumakbo ang kumbaga ano yung cluster? Is it
Within the same province.
within the same province?
Yes. Ito, ano pa to ha? This is up for a lot of discussions. But basically, the version that we were tackling is, let's say, province of, let's say, province A. Okay. Yung governor, vice governor, and the board members should not be related. O yung anak ni governor, tumakbong SK, or tumakbong kapitan yung asawa, hindi pwede maging ex-officio board member ng probinsya na yun.
Okay, ma'am.
May tanong nga kasi alam naman natin nag-aaway-away din minsan. Marami tayong infighting among family because of politics. Tinanong ko, kunyari si Mayor, last term, tatakbo yung asawa ni Mayor. Ngayon yung kapatid ni Mayor, tatakbo din. Pwede ba yon? Ang sagot pwede. Kasi isa lang naman talaga yung mananalo sa kanila. Pero hindi pwede kung meron silang kapatid or anak na tatakbo ng vice mayor or councilor, yun ang i-disqualify ng COMELEC. Supposedly, if that bill passes.
Pero ma'am, under this version of the bill, actually, pwedeng tumakbo yung tatlong mga dadato ng tatlong probinsya kahit mag-asawa sa anak.
Like I said, there's a loophole.
And
Mabilis
also,
lang yun. Hanap ka ng ibang constituent.
A lot of Ampatuans would still be able to run basta hindi sila within the same constituency. Magkaibang, example, magkakaibang kakaibang bayan.
Talan
Mayor,
ka ng
vice
cluster.
mayor, basta hindi kayo magkamag-anak. Mayor, vice mayor, hindi magkamag-anak.
So ang ibig sabihin ng cluster is province.
Yes, the cluster will be President, Vice President, Senate, Congress and party list representatives, province, municipality, iba naman yung city, and then barangay. Okay, again, what I'm seeing, it's not perfect. And the way that it's being crafted is pangkabuuhan. No? Medyo unique yung situation na gumagapang sa iba't ibang mga probinsya. But with all these reforms na masisimulan, time will come that Anti-Dynasty bill can be amended to something that is more, what will I say, more, sisimulan natin, hindi naman ibig sabihin na hanggang dyan lang yan. As the time comes, papunta rin tayo doon. Because remember, marami rin yung ibang reforms. Andyan din yung reforms on procurement. Andyan din yung reforms on government projects. And andun din yung kadena bill, no? So, may mga bagay-bagay na kung titingnan mo, ang impact niyan will really be felt by the people.
Secretary, wala bang proposal na regional yung cluster instead ng provincial? Wala bang ganong active
That can
proposal?
be considered. That's actually a very good suggestion. May nag-ungkat actually niyan kahapon. Kaya lang,
Region
sa
would be
na-file
better.
na bill, yun yung clustering. So we are trying to, of course,
regional,
kaya nga
sinasabi mo,
napakahirap na gawing 2 buwan o 1 buwan ang discussion.
Okay.
Kasi we need to open the discussion to everybody that all the stakeholders.
Pero
And-
you'll still be allowing, for example, one family to get positions across several levels. Sa national, sa congressional, and then sa local, provincial, and then city. So you would still have that same. I know what you mean. This is the best that you can come up with as far as you're concerned. But let me also ask this from this point of view. Now that people are, and then now that Congress is really eager to pass an anti-dynasty law, wouldn't it be the best time to go all out for it? Kasi it took us 39 years to get to this point. Baka it'll take another 39 years to amend the law.
So might as
Ganito
well
lang
go
yun,
big.
no? Pag meron tayong gustong ipasa, we have to be realistic that it's also a numbers game. So kung mahihirapan tayong kuhanin yung numero, parang nawala yung lahat ng pinaglaban natin. So might as well come up with a version that is acceptable to majority of the members para masimulan na. Marami yan eh. Maraming, tingnan mo, meron isang bayan, halos magkakamag-anak yan. So, maski ako, matatamaan din iba kong mga kaibigan, iba kong mga kamag-anak. But we have to start it at a point where it is acceptable. Again, it's a numbers game. And we have to have the numbers to make a difference.
But what's also unique this time, Congresswoman, is of course the House trust in the House is, really plummeted,
Abysmal.
right? After all of these scandals. So I agree with Ed, wouldn't now be a great time to, in a bid to restore transparency, yun yung sinasabi ni Speaker Boji D when he came to power. Sabi niya, I will, he will go big on accountability, transparency, trust. He will do everything he can to bring back trust in the institution kasi he admitted that it's been weakened so much by this flood control scam, right? So, yeah.
You're right. No, you're right. The institution, let's say we are on the crossroads. We are under fire. However, if you look at the surveys of individual congressional districts, majority of the members are still up for a very comfortable lead. The way we're seeing things, no? So, pardon me for this, but that's reality. Hindi nagtutugma yung negative impression on a nationwide basis as compared doon sa chances of winning of incumbent members of Congress. Kasi makikita mo rin
Hindi ba
doon
dahil
sa
sa
pangangailangan
ano,
ng Constitution.
Ang sinasabi ni
Hindi ba
Congresswoman, hindi sila
dahil sa lack of
nape-pressure.
alternatives yun? Kasi
Dahil
kapag
80%
yung mga
ang
ganyang
tumakbo,
local
walang kalaban.
surveys syempre
So, anong pressure yung
iniisip ng mga
sinasabi
tao,
natin?
sino ba yung nakakapagbigay sa akin ng ayuda? Saan ba yung galing yung ayuda? Iba, isn't that our problem right now? Na
Mind
nagagaling
you, no?
sa creative budgeting, yung support. Political support is using budget.
Yeah, sa totoo lang ha, many politicians would believe me in this. Ang ayuda ay hindi nakakapanalo ng mga kandidato. Kasi maski anong laki ng ayuda na makuha ng isang distrito, it will never be sufficient to give everybody a share. Yung nabigyan, matutuwa. Pero hindi naman ibig sabihin yun, nagboboto sa'yo yun. Kasi ang utak ng tao galing sa gobyerno to. Hindi namin to utang na loob sa politiko. Pero yung hindi nabibigyan, may galit, no? At ikakampanya ka pa kontra. Marami kaming nakakausap, marami rin akong kakilala, even some of my constituents, na nakita ko na talagang todo active sa mga ayuda distribution, but it did not affect their chances of winning, natatalo pa rin. The parameters usually changes. Andun pa lang talaga yung visibility ng tao. We have a lot of public officials who are very visible in their constituencies. They might not be active in legislative debates, but they're very active in the grassroots.
Balikan ko lang.
Ang problema kasi mga Pilipino, it's actually relationship that matters. Nakikita ka, nakakausap ka, natatawagan ka, yun ang nakakapanalo ng karamihan. And the sense of pride when they see you participating in many activities, especially deliberations.
Balikan ko lang yung sinasabi ng mga kasama ko dito, Congresswoman. Nasa crossroads tayo dahil nga ganito ka galit yung mga tao at ganito kalawak at kalalim yung outrage sa nangyayari. Kaya ito yung magandang opportunity para i-push yung envelope further. Ang sinasabi nyo
Pushing envelope.
ang sinasabi nyo, Congresswoman, yung pressure para sa mga congressman halimbawa, in reality ay hindi ganun kalaki kahit ganito ka-widespread yung outrage dahil karamihan sa mga congressman tumakbo ng walang kalaban. No? Di ba? Yung karamihan sa kanila.
Kontrolado ng pamilya eh.
Oh, so yung pressure ay hindi commensurate dun sa sinasabi namin na outrage. No, hindi sila nagtutugma.
May outrage sa national level, sa NCR meron. But when you go to the provinces, ang nasa ano kasi ng tao ay yung gutom, trabaho, kalusugan. They are more concerned on their day-to-day living. At kung nakikita nila doon, yung kanilang public official, na, ito, maski hindi naman kalakihan ang naitutulong. Pero the problem is also the system. Na, marami yung palaging present, very active in legislative endeavors. Pero kung wala ka doon sa iyong constituency, people will not vote for you. That's the problem. At yung maraming balita, maraming problema, maraming news na pinag-uusapan sa Metro Manila. Pero yung mga balita at yung mga pinag-uusapan sa mga probinsya, even in local radio stations, is different from what is being discussed in Manila. So siguro ito rin yung isang dapat na matahi. No? I'm not sure if it is because we have many islands, pero that is what is happening.
Mga ilang percent po yung tingin yung sa Kongreso ang sumusuporta dito sa panukalang, sa presyon na to, ng panukalang ito that you've been talking about?
The Anti-Dynasty bill?
Opo.
We still do not have the concrete
More or less
numbers,
po.
no? Pero sa
Estimate.
kahapon lang to nag-uusap-usap. Siguro in the next, before Congress goes on break on December 22, maybe the leadership would have an idea of the support that it will generate.
But you're certain of a majority at least?
Most probably. Ayaw natin pangunahan, pero you can feel it.
And
Mas
this is,
acceptable siya na version.
And this is the version that is the latest version to be considered by the House leadership. Is that a fair way to put it?
That's the version filed by Speaker Poggi.
Apo.
Are we going to introduce any provisions for swapping seats, rotations? Marami naman tayong provinces na nagpapalit-palit lang yung asawa, anak, pinsan, everything. Will there be a provision for that? Banning that, I should say.
Nung napag-usapan kasi yun, marami rin ang nagtanong. Kasi, okay, may ibang mga politiko nandiyan dyan, matagal, nagpalit-palit. Then, biglang natalo, may pumalit. Pagdating ng next election, na ibabalik. So you'll start asking why. So it does not necessarily mean na kapag kadugo or kamag-anak ay maganda ang serbisyo, pero hindi rin ibig sabihin na hindi maganda ang serbisyo. It is still dependent on the services being rendered by that political family or by that individual. So I believe yung regional na nire-recommend, it's something that can actually be considered.
Balik ko lang doon sa party list, Congresswoman, no? Anong cluster yung party list? Dahil ang party list kasi is basically national eh. Congress yung
Kasama
kanyang
siya dun sa
representation,
Congress.
pero national yung kanyang kampanya. So, saan siya ilalagay na cluster na bawal?
Sa Congress, sa House of Representatives. So, ibig sabihin, kapag membro ka ng House of Representatives, hindi pwede yung
Fourth
pinsang
degree.
buo mo, yung pamangkin mo, kapatid mo, ino mo, or even illegitimate half-blooded or full-blooded relatives up to the fourth level of consanguinity ay hindi pwede. Marami ang matatamaan dyan.
Yung senator lang sa party list ang pwedeng magkamag-anak.
No. Ang sa Congress, let's say, if do you have a member of Congress?
Pwede kang magkamag-anak if one is a senator, another is party list.
Oh,
Kasi
yeah.
different
Cluster yung
clusters.
Senate eh.
Yeah.
Di ba?
But many of the senators have actually brothers, sisters,
Yes.
children, or siblings in Congress.
Yun, hindi babawal yun. Halimbawa, anak ng senador, pwede pa rin tumakbo sa House.
Pwede yon. Pero yung nasa House, hindi na siya pwede magkaroon ng kapatid na congressman, o yung mag-asawa na congressman, o yung pamangkin or pinsang buo na nasa Congress.
Yung direct succession, walang prohibition. After the term limit is over, walang direct succession among relatives. Walang ganung proposal na
Wala,
prohibition.
no? Kasi marami rin ang... It's actually, syempre sasabihin din ng iba na bakit ipagbabawal, karapatan namin yun. And we can
Di ba
see a
yun
lot
yung
of
dynasty
infighting.
na succession nga?
That's basically... That's basically the problem, no? Because yung dynasty na succession are not elected. In this case, kaya nga ang problema, when we are challenged to define dynasty, to have the concrete definition of political dynasty, it's quite challenging, kanya-kanyang version eh.
Kasi yung issue sa dynasty is to give others a chance. In a democracy, ha?
Yeah.
Kaya to break the hold of families,
Yeah.
puputulin yung succession.
Yeah.
Yun
that
lang
was-
naman ang idea doon,
that
na
was-
give others a chance. Dahil usually kapag yung pamilya, kontrolado mo yung
Yeah.
house, yung governor's place, yung mayor, kasi pwede yan under your cluster.
Yeah.
Sa barangay, ang pag-asa lang dyan, pag pinutol mo yung succession.
And that was
Kung
also
sakasakali, may ibang makakapasok.
And that was also the point I was making when I asked you about
Yeah.
yung swapping of positions or rotations. Yes, I get it.
magpapalit-palit lang yan eh.
Oh, not necessarily.
Yung sa party list, mawawala na yun. Yung may mga nakakandidato, pagkatapos pag nanalo na mawawala ito, then may mag-a-assume na iba, yung mga mag-resign. Yun ang sa pag-intindi ko ay talagang malamang na mawala, no? Yung kumbaga kung sino ang tumakbo, sino ang nominee dyan, talagang yan yun. Usually kasi ilalagay, okay, abogado or ganito or kamag-anak or like dummy candidates. And then pag nanalo na, ito na yung mga mag-a-assume. Yun yung tina-target na talagang mawala.
Ma'am, I think they're referring to the thin dynasties versus the fat dynasties. The thin dynasties, a relative takes over from a previous relative who had that position.
People, let's say, ang daming cities where the wife takes over as mayor after the husband's
Yeah.
term finishes, or the son or the daughter takes over as mayor or as vice mayor.
Yun actually ang
I mean, the
dynasty.
whole point of an anti-dynasty bill is to make it more meritocratic, right? Wala naman shortage of skills, of capabilities, of competence here.
To level the playing field.
It's to level the playing field and make it more meritocratic, right? And the problem with still allowing the swapping of positions is whoever is sitting in power right now, well, he can certainly make
Has the advantage of the
has the
incumbent.
advantage, has the machinery, right? To make sure now, okay,
equity of the
I'm going to be able
incumbent.
to pass it to my wife when I'm done with this term.
That is something that can be discussed. However, the usual word that we hear is that these are elected positions. Dumadaan ito sa election, hindi ito appointed. Kagaya ng nire-refer natin na kind of dynasties. Yun yung mahirap din naming sagutin. Kasi syempre sasabihin rin nila yung mga karapatan nila ay natatapakan. Parang tinatanong ka, wala na bang karapatan? Tumakbo yung isang tao dahil kamag-anak siya ni ganito. And mind you, if you look at the political situation in the Philippines, ang dami yung mga kamag-anak na talagang nag-aawa yan. Minsan mas nilalagay pa nila yung kanilang kaibigan or kasama ng matagal na kaysa sa kamag-anak.
But that's the same for corporations, for companies, for publicly listed companies, for example, Congresswoman, right? Some companies bar families from being, even working in the same company, even though they're not officers.
But that's a different matter because ina-avoid kasi natin doon, one is pollution. And then if you're in a private company, let's say, ako yung presidente ng kumpanya, tapos asawa ko yung HR officer. Ngayon, pag pinagalitan yung HR at tinanggal ng board, of course, I cannot just say that I will be impartial, maapektuhan ka. Yun naman yung balance, no, in a private company.
Okay. Ma'am, may baka ng topic. I'd like to ask you about, of course, he's his own man. Si Congressman Kiko Barzaga, your seatmate in Congress.
By the way, he's not my seatmate. What happens is he sits in the seat of Speaker Bojidi. Dati kasi si Speaker Bojidi was Deputy Speaker, remember? Minsan naman uupuan niya yung upuan ni Deputy Speaker Balindong. So kung saan yung bakante. Kasi nga, he sits there. Kasi ang sinasabi niya is just a matter of weeks and he will be assuming the speakership post. So, yun yung akala ng iba na seatmate ko siya or katabi ko siya noon. Tumatabi siya and then he will call me sometimes mommy, yung mga ganyan. Hindi nga siya umuupo doon sa talagang upuan niya. So that's why I've reminded him several times na alam mo, ang dami mong matututunan sa Kongreso. I was teaching him how to dissect the budget. what a first reading, a second reading, and a third reading means. Kaya lang, ayaw niya. Sabi niya, pagka numbers, ayaw na ayaw niya. Tsaka pag thick books, ayaw na ayaw niya. Meron siyang sinasabing isang book na gustong-gusto niya, but it's not about legislation. Although meron siyang, I think, pet bill na gusto niya ipasa. Kasi nga pinag-uusapan namin yung medical assistance program, the medical assistance for the financially challenged, and the indigents. Yung sa kanya naman, gusto niya na ito na aside from applying it sa mga tao na pasyente, he also wants it applied on animals na kailangan ng medical help. So yun yung sabi ko, alam mo, while that is a good idea, sa Pilipinas, marami pang kailangan sa mga pampaospital at sa sakit ng mga gamot ng ating mga kababayan. So, mahirap talagang ipasok yan kasi aagaw yan kukuha yan ng huge percentage, a huge chunk of the budget for healthcare.
Right, before you ask your question, Ed, I just wanted to point out Congressman Kiko Barzaga, and I've interviewed him, is a prime example of what we're trying to fix here, right? He also came up from a political dynasty, both parents were politicians, and yet here you are telling us that you have to give him a crash course in lawmaking, in how to read a budget. You see what I mean?
But wasn't he a councilor in Dasmariñas? So he would have experience
He was.
as a
He's not new. He's
local
not new to
legislator.
legislation.
But he doesn't seem
Hindi siya
interested
bago.
in
And
lawmaking.
I've seen PD before, yung kanyang tatay is a very good friend. At kasama siya, andyan siya, he's exposed to politics. It's just that, let's admit it, meron siyang situation na medyo kakaiba.
Okay. Well, I bring him up kasi we talked to him, I think, a week or two ago, and he said that he plans to file an impeachment complaint against President Bongbong Marcos. I wanted to ask you what you think are the chances of that complaint moving forward in the lower chamber.
Well, that's his prerogative.
Yeah, of course.
Unfortunately, he has been going around campaigning for signatures. Unfortunately, yung pinapakita niyang papel is a 2-page impeachment complaint na walang naman eh. And when you ask him, ano yung basis, alin dito, it's very specific. He would say, hindi, basta ibagsak si Marcos. Hindi. So, alam mo, how can you generate support for something na alam mong in form and in substance talagang hindi napapasa?
So, in short, Congresswoman, walang chance.
Wala. I don't think our colleagues are taking him seriously on that matter.
Okay.
Last tanong na lang, Congresswoman. Ano yung lumalabas ngayon na counterpart bill na anti-dynasty sa Senate? Parang eventually, it will be
Reconciled.
a decision not only of the House, but of the Senate. So ano yung lumalabas ngayon na medyo hindi ganun kalayo na version? Kung meron na anti-dynasty
Narinig ko
counterpart
pero
bill.
hindi ko pa nahahawakan. I'll get back to you when I have a copy.
But would you know if they also have a clustering of sorts among the bills in the Senate against dynasties, as you were talking
I
about?
am not sure. I am not sure yet. But I think the version that we have would be acceptable to them.
Yeah. Okay. We honestly have so much more to talk to you about, but we'll let you go. I understand you're at a wedding, so thank you so much for taking time out to talk to us. We really appreciate it. Deputy Speaker, Congresswoman Jannette Garin. Thanks for your time, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
you po.
Pasensya,
Thank
medyo
you,
nakapintura yung mukha ko.
Congresswoman.
Thank you, God bless.
Happy Merry Christmas.
Yung
Thank
pala,
you. Merry
nasa kasal
Christmas.
pala.